guys, this is Gurneet. In today's video, we are going to discuss the other important trick around SQL, which is how to use with statement to create CTEs to replace messy subqueries. CTE is nothing but common table expression, which is a temporary named result set created from a select statement and is used in a subsequent select statement. On the other hand, a subquery is defined as a query within a query. That is, a query which is embedded in a where clause of another SQL query. Now, the question that arises here is, why do we need CTEs instead of subqueries? So the reasons for that is CTE can be reusable. Now, in contrast to subqueries, we don't have to repeat a CTE definition every time we require it in the query. Rather than that, we define it in the beginning and then reference it whenever it's necessary. The second, now it's easier to understand the logic in the query in sequence rather than in a nested fashion. So whenever we write up a query, we break it down into smaller pieces using CTE. While in case of subqueries, the query turns into a tangled mess of subqueries. Third, which is CTEs can be recursive. CTEs are great at processing graphs, trees, and other hierarchical structure because with the with syntax can process recursion. What is recursion? It is a query. A recursive query is a query that refers itself, which a subquery cannot do. Now, CTE in SQL. CTE in SQL is a result set of a query which exists temporarily only within the context of the larger query. This will be more clear using the syntax. The syntax of the query is with, we use the with statement, and then the table A is the the common table expression name, and the query in this will be the query that is the common table SQL query. This exists temporarily. Now this CTE is like a temporary table and the result is stored in this table. Now table B over here is the main table. So what happens is we called the table A in our main query and then we select star from the main table. So I hope this is clear. Now let's jump into our SQL and solve our problem statement. So coming back to our problem statement, which is to obtain the price of the most expensive item in the table sales, we will be solving this problem statement using common table expression, and I'll also be showing you how it gets solved using a subquery. And we'll be comparing it and we'll see which one is better. So let's get started. Now, the first step is to create the table. So I'll create a table, create table, table name, which is sales, and then in the bracket, column names. First is branch, the data type, comma, date, data type, varchar, comma, then seller, again varchar, 100, comma, the next column is item, varchar, 100. After that, the quantity, which is an integer value, and then unit price, the price for every item, which is again integer. And then I'll close the bracket. And I will execute this query. So let's execute it. And when I execute, it says commands completed successfully. That means our table has been created. Now the next step is to verify whether our table has been created or not. So I'll just say select star from sales. And I will let me execute it. Let me execute it. So as you can see, our table has been created. Now, the next step that comes over here is to insert the values into our table. So I'll be doing it. Insert into table name, which is sales, then values. Now, first is the branch. So I'll be writing down the branch, which is Paris 1, comma. The next thing is the date, which is, I'll write down 7/12/2021. Next, the seller, which is the name of the seller. So I'll write down Charles. And next thing, the item, which is headphones. So we'll write down headphones. Next, we have the quantity, which is 1, and the price of the item, which is 80. And then we'll be closing the brackets. So this is the syntax for writing down the, so for inserting the values. In this manner, I will be inserting all the values into our table. And then we will execute it. So let me write down. And now I will execute all these statements. So let me just execute this. And now it says all the rows. So in total, we have 7 values. Select star from sales. And then I will execute it. Now you can see that all the values has been inserted. So now that I have my values in my table, my next step is to calculate the problem statement using a subquery. Now, as you can see that in this, I've already written the syntax. So what I've really done is that I have first taken select, and I want all my values from sales column, and comma b dot highest price. Now this highest price is the maximum of our unit price, which I have calculated using a subquery inside my main query, which is select branch comma date and the maximum unit price as highest price. And then I have joined these two, the same table, using branch and date. So when I calculate this, when I execute this query, the result which I will be getting is this. So it has calculated all the highest price. But looking at the query, you can see that it is quite confusing. It is the query inside a query, and one query is calculating the highest price while the other, and the main query is selecting the items. So the query looks quite confusing, and you cannot understand the logic looking at the subquery. Now, our main focus is to solve this problem statement using common table expression. So for that, I will be using with statement with the table name, which is I'll be using in our case is highest as, and then in bracket, select. Now, in this common table, we will be calculating the highest price of the unit price. So for that, I'll be doing select branch, comma, date from the table, comma. Now for calculating the highest price, we'll use the max function, max of unit underscore price of the table sales, and I'll be renaming it as highest price. Highest price from table sales, and then group by branch, comma, date. And I'll be closing these. Now this is our temporary result of a query. Then I will be writing, this is our main query, select. So I have to select all the columns. So I'll do sales dot all the columns asterisk, comma, from the table. Now, comma, h dot highest underscore price, which is from our table, temporary table. From the table name sales, and we'll be join the table sales, highest, the table name is highest, and name it H. Then, and on what columns are we going to join it? On sales dot branch is equal to H dot branch, and also the date. So sales dot date is equal to H dot date, and I'll be so let me execute this query. Now you can see that it has calculated the highest price of every item. Now, when we compare these two things, like first I have calculated it using a subquery, and then I have calculated it using a CTE. Now, looking at the both queries, it is quite understandable that the common table expression one looks more readable and looks more understandable. The logic behind the query is more understandable using a CTE, while in subquery it looks quite messy. So this is the reason that we prefer a common table expression over a subquery. I hope this is clear. Thanks for watching.